Hello friends and a warm welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy. This is Yatharth here. In the last lecture we discussed a lot of things and some of the things were related to economy as well. We discussed about the monetary policy. In this lecture we'll be discussing about the budget a bit. A few topics should need to be addressed. So how an interim budget differs from a regular budget. So recently the interim budget was produced. So Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented an interim budget. So we need to focus on this term. That what is interim? For the new fiscal, that is financial year 25th. The full budget for the mentioned fiscal will be introduced in July. So this is not the full budget. And after a new government is formed following the upcoming general elections in the first half of 2024. So last month, the Finance Minister said that the upcoming February 1st budget will primarily serve as a vote on account. Now this term again is very important. What is vote on account? So she said it would refrain from any spectacular announcements. So this spectacular announcements can also change the outcome of the election results. So this is a positive thing. So I'm not going to play spoil sport, but it is a matter of truth that the February 1 budget will just be a vote on account. We are in election mode and the election happens during the coming summer. So the budget that the government presents will just be able to or will just be a budget to meet the expenditure of the government till a new government comes into play. The Finance Minister said after last month at the CII's Global Economic Policy Forum 2023. Alright, so we know two things. That's not the final budget as well it is just meeting the expenditure. So the term interim budget refers to a budget of a government that is going through a transition period. The budget following the British tradition is called a vote on account. So no spectacular announcements are made that time. You may have to wait till after the new government comes in. Alright, so as defined by Article 116. Now please remember this Article 116 of the Indian Constitution. A vote on account is an advance grant to the government for the Consolidated Fund of India to cover short-term expenditure requirements until the new financial year begins. Alright, so please remember short-term expenditure from Consolidated Fund of India. Two things you remember here, short-term and from Consolidated Fund of India. So it must be noted that during an outgoing government, an interim budget is presented or a vote on account is sought. The next government is responsible for presenting the full budget. The interim budget gives an overview of the expected receipts and expenditure of the government until a fresh one is formed. Meanwhile, a union budget is comprehensive outline of all aspects of the centre's finances, including allocations, earnings, spendings, overview of country's economic performance and policy declarations. Now let's talk about a regular budget. It outlines the country's economic and financial trajectory for the entire financial year. Alright, so this is very important here. And now let's say whichever political party is in rule right now, or the ruling party, they make a budget according to their policy. Now they may or may not win the election this year in 2024. Alright, so the next government will essentially produce its own budget. That what we are going to do in this year. So preparation of this budget, if it's presented during this time, it will essentially be wasted. Because this party, if the second party wins the election, they may have a different philosophy or ideology to their budget. Alright, so it's just a vote on account that till the date elections are done and contested, till that time the Consolidated Fund of India should issue a certain money or funds to the governments to carry on with its projects based upon the receipts and the expenditure. So this is known as the interim budget. Now let's talk about another very important thing. What is multidimensional poverty and what is the trend of multidimensional poverty in India? So this is also about the budget. So in her interim budget speech, FM Nirmala Sitharaman said 25 crore Indians have been pulled out of poverty over the past decade. So when we count the number of Indians, that is 150 crores. That is an approx figure. Exactly, it's 140.76 crores. But when we see the ratio, the 25 crore Indians out of 150. So let's say 1 by 6 that is. So them or this ratio, 1 out of 6 Indians has been pulled out of the multidimensional poverty in the last 10 years. So this is the data or statistics which you can use in your answer writing. Now with the pursuit of Sabka Saath, in these 10 years, the government has assisted 25 crore people to get freedom from multidimensional poverty. So what is the basis of this assessment? So this number appeared in a discussional paper, Multidimensional Poverty in India since 2005-6, published by Niti Aayog in January 15. The paper, with technical inputs from the United Nations Development Programme, that is UNDP, and the Oxford Policy and Human Development Initiative, that is OPHI, it says that multidimensional poverty in India was found to decline from 29.17% in 2013-14 to 11.28% in 22-23, with about 24.82 crore people escaping poverty during this period. At the states level, Uttar Pradesh topped the list. Alright, so you can also use this fact or statistics in your state exams mains. Alright, with 5.94 crore people escaping poverty, followed by Bihar at 3.77 crore and Madhya Pradesh at 2.30 crores. Alright, so we come here, escaped multidimensional poverty. So we see the UP is topping here. Alright, there are multiple people more in Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and then further more in Maharashtra, Rajasthan, etc. and so on. Overall, we see a figure of about and around 25 crore people in the last decade, last 10 years, escaping multidimensional poverty. So please remember this figure for your interview as well as answers. Now let's talk about what is the multidimensional poverty index, that is MPI. So traditionally, poverty is calculated based either on income levels. If income data are not available, or expenditure levels. The so-called poverty lines are actually expenditure levels that are considered minimum enough for someone to be called poor. So you must remember the Tendulkar line, etc. So what is different about the MPI or multidimensional poverty? That it has multiple dimensions. So the MPI uses 10 indicator or 10 dimensions assessment of which gives an idea whether somebody is poor or not. The first dimension is health. Second is education. And third is standard of living. These three dimensions have 1/3 weight each in the final index. Alright, so it has 10 different indicators in 3 dimensions. One is health, second is education, third is standard of overall living. So the health dimension includes nutrition and child and adolescent mortality indicators. The education dimension includes years of schooling, school attendance indicators, and dropout periods also. Standard of living dimensions include 6 household specific indicators, which are housing, household assets, type of cooking fuel, access to sanitation, drinking water, and electricity. The Indian MPI has 2 additional indicators, alright, which is maternal health and bank accounts under the standard of living dimension. So this was a good mission, the Jan Dhan accounts. Alright, now let's talk about how is MPI calculated. So according to the MPI method, if a person is deprived in a third or more of 10 weighted indicators, they are indicated as MPI poor. So if they are poor in 3 out of 10 or more than 3 out of 10 indicators, they are considered poor, and then overall they will be considered MPI poor. So however, to calculate the index value, 3 separate calculations are needed. The first calculation involves finding out the incidence of multidimensional poverty, denoted by the symbol H. The incidence essentially refers to the proportion of multidimensionally poor in the population, and it is arrived at by the dividing number of multidimensionally poor persons by total population. More simply, it answers the question how many are poor. The second calculation involves finding out the intensity. So first is calculating the incidence, the quantity. Second, we are finding out the intensity. It is denoted by the symbol A. It answers the question how poor they are. Alright, so how many are poor and what is the quality of their poverty? How poor they are. Alright, more technically, this refers to the average proportion of deprivation that is experienced by multidimensionally poor individuals. To compute intensity, the weighted deprivation scores of all poor people are summed and then divided by the total number of poor people. And finally, the MPI is arrived at by multiplying the incidence of multidimensionally poor, that is H, and the intensity of poverty, A. So a question can come, let's say, that if MPI is denoted by H into A, then what do H and A represent? So you must know that H represents incidence, A represents the intensity. Alright. Okay, so how are the data for 2013, 14 and 23 arrived at? Typically, the health metrics depend on data from, basically there's a NFHS, that is a National Family Health Survey. All right, the fifth, sixth one are going on right now, and it conducted every 5 years. The last one refers to the 29-21 period. And how then were the MPI for 12, 13 and 23 calculated? So according to the paper, they require interpolation of estimates for the year 2013-14 and extrapolation for the year 22-23. Alright, the extrapolation is what? That let's say this graph is going this type, then we already know the trajectory of the graph. We cannot say that it will suddenly go like this or suddenly go like this. So extrapolation will be like this. Alright, so this will be extrapolation. Okay, now let's talk about another very important topic, India's solar power capacity target and the way forward. So PM Modi announced the launch of new programs to install rooftop solar systems on 1 crore houses. Just a second. What is the philosophy behind this? That people of India should have their own solar rooftop system on the roof of their houses, announcing the Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana. Surya means sun, Uday means to rise. So sunrise scheme basically. There's another one that is Surya Ast. Ast means the fall basically. Okay, so we are not talking about the Ast, we are talking about the Uday. So this will not only reduce the electricity bills of the poor and middle classes, but will also make India self-reliant in the energy sector. So although the 1 crore household target is new, the installation of solar systems on rooftop have been an ongoing government program for more than a decade. But it is running far behind the schedule, and it's just a new push. So the announcement by the Prime Minister is an attempt to give a fresh push to decentralized solar power in the country. Let's talk about very important data here. So top 10 states with highest rooftop solar capacity. We are talking about the rooftop solar capacity, all right? So this is Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan, and Kerala. So please just remember the top 3 or 4, which is Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Rajasthan. Very easy to remember. You can just remember the western side of India. All right, so first one is Gujarat. The second is Maharashtra. The third one is Karnataka. And fourth is Rajasthan here. All right, just a second. Okay, and now we talk about year-wise installed solar power capacity. So we see here that it's this figure. Now what we see here, that this has been a increment, then a decrement, then again increment in the last 2 years, and then again a decrement. All right, so we till December 23 this is. Okay, so we need a fresh push to make it keep going higher and higher. This figure is in the megawatts. All right, so it's around 6 gigawatts. Okay, so ongoing program. So in one of the first major decisions after becoming PM in 2014, just a second. So Modi had set a target of installing 100 gigawatt of solar power. I hope you already know what is mega, giga. So mega is 10 to the power 3. All right, that is deca, hecta, kilo, mega. So this type giga is there. Mega is actually 10 to the power 6. Giga is 10 to the power 12. Alright, kilo is 10 to the power 3. Okay, so it's 100 gigawatts of solar power in the country by 2022. Now this was a 5-fold jump from the existing target at that time. 40% of this capacity, that is 40 gigawatt, was supposed to come from grid connected solar rooftop system. So this is what we are talking about. This has been given a fresh push. So while the installed solar power capacity in the country has risen rapidly over the past decade, the 100 gigawatt target for 2022 has been missed by a long margin, and so has the target for rooftop installation. At the end of last year, the total solar installed capacity in the country had reached only 73.3 gigawatt, of which grid connected solar rooftop only contributed 11 gigawatt. So we need a fresh push. So let's see why this happened. So part of the reason why the country fell behind the target was disruption caused by the COVID-19, obviously. But even before that, the growth trajectory of solar power was not sufficiently steep. The 40 gigawatt target for rooftop solar system is now supposed to be achieved by 2026. Now let's talk about the Suryodaya Yojana. What is increment or what is the push here? So details of new program have not been released, but its focus is slightly different in that it is targeting a certain number of household instead of installed capacity. Well, it's talking about the quality and quantity at the same time now. Okay, so we are targeting the households, and automatically it will raise the number of the quality. Alright, that means installed capacity. So from this perspective, the latest initiative is similar to the ones that have been launched in some other countries in the past. So in the late 1990s, for example, the United States had unveiled plans to put rooftop solar on 1 million houses, that is 10 lakh. So 1/10 of what India is targeting. So a target that took around 20 years to achieve. A few countries in Europe too have had similar programs. Also, the new program announced by PM is aimed primarily at individual households that have remained largely untapped by the ongoing schemes on solar, rooftop solar. As a recent report by the public policy think tank Council on Energy, that is Environment and Water CEEW, the residential sector currently accounts for just 20% of the installation of rooftop solar capacity. The bulk of the current installation have happened in the commercial and industrial sectors. So what we need to do is utilize the residential houses to install the solar capacity, and the aim is to do so at 1 crore houses. This is basically about the Suryodaya Yojana, because our target is of 40 gigawatt and we installed only 11 gigawatt. Okay, overall target is of 100 gigawatt of renewable energy. So out of this, 40 will come from solar energy and we only have 11 from the rooftop systems yet. Alright, so the CW report says about 1/5 of this potential, or about 118 gigawatt, is certainly doable. So importantly, the potential of rooftop solar is available uniformly across all states and regions, unlike concentrated generation of electricity through large solar parks that require big corporate investment, open tracts of land and powerful transmission lines. Okay, lastly, we'll talk about the energy access and security. That is the way forward. So whether targeting installed capacity or number of households, the overall objective of such program are the same. That is ensuring energy security, effecting a transition to non-fossil source of energy and increasing energy access. So we need to see this line here. India has an international commitment to ensure that by 2030, about 50% of its installed capacity of electricity generation will come from non-fossil fuel. This share has already reached 43% with renewables, that is wind, solar, biogas, contributing about 30% of the total installed capacity. So we need 7% to do it with solar mostly. So but with India's electricity demand expected to rise sharply, and other non-fossil fuel sources like nuclear or hydro unlikely to show a major surge, renewable energy, particularly solar, needs to grow at very rapid pace to fulfill the demand. Alright, so we need to bridge the gap with increasing the solar. So one of the key interventions needed in this direction is to enable and empower the distribution companies, especially one that do not put an additional financial burden on them. Most of the electricity distribution companies are already bleeding, and improving their financial health is prerequisite for the success of the new program. Please remember such points for the interview. Okay, so this we have already learned India's current solar capacity. Okay, so solar power installed capacity in India has reached around 73.31 gigawatts. Meanwhile, rooftop solar is around 11 gigawatts. So in terms of total solar capacity, Rajasthan is at top with 18.7 gigawatts. Gujarat is at second position with 10.5 gigawatts. And when it comes to rooftop solar, Gujarat tops, followed by Maharashtra. And solar power has major share, which in the renewable energy, which is about 180 gigawatt overall. Okay, so we already know all this. This is another news that late Karpuri Thakur to be bestowed Bharat Ratna. So please know about this also. This is from our history, modern history. So government announced the highest civilian award Bharat Ratna for socialist icon and former Chief Minister of Bihar, late Karpuri Thakur. He will be the 49th recipient and 15 to be accorded posthumously. This announcement has been made on the eve of 100th birth celebration of late Thakur. PM said that the prestigious recognition is testament to his enduring efforts as a champion for the marginalized and the stalwart of equality and empowerment. Okay, Lord, let's see some points, very small points. So he served as the Chief Minister of Bihar and was a key figure in the struggle against social discrimination. He was born on January 1924, so in pre-independence time, which was renamed after him as a Karpuri Gram later on. And he hailed from the Nai Samaj, that means barber. He left college education for the country's freedom struggle because of his participation in the Quit India movement. So please remember this fact, he participated in the Quit India movement. He was arrested also in 1942 and 45. He was first elected to the Bihar Assembly in 1952, where he continued until his death. And Thakur was inspired by heavyweights like Ram Manohar Lohia and spearheaded the socialist movement in post-independence India. He was also close to Jayaprakash Narayan. He was the first non-Congress Chief Minister of Bihar. He served in the top job from December 1970 to 1971 and later from 1977 to 79. His tenure as CM is being remembered for the implementation of recommendation of Mungeri Lal Commission Okay, please remember this. Where quotas for backward classes were introduced in the state. So basically, BC quotas were introduced in the Bihar by Mungeri Lal Commission under the CMship of the late Karpuri Thakur. He was also known in Bihar politics for enforcing a total prohibition on alcohol in 1970. His political journey was marked by his unwavering commitment to the marginalized section of the society. Commemorative coin will also be released. The coin will be in the denomination of rupees 100. Commemorative coins are intended to celebrate honor people. Although these coins are legal tender, they can be used in the local market, but they are not minted for general circulation. Also, the price of such a coin is much higher than the value printed on it. Alright, so this was about today's lecture. This is Yatharth here signing off. I hope you all have a good day. Study well, take care, and see you again.